and welcome to a new episode of the Essence Show. I am your host, Essence. I hope everyone's having a great evening. We are welcoming International Day of Achievers, which is so appropriate for this show today because of my guests. I'm so enlightened. I'm so humbled. I'm so excited. My heart is like this. And I just can't believe that we made this happen. And thank you for being here with us today. We are going to have an amazing show. We're going to speak with someone that I personally listen to twice a week that gets me through my life, that gets me through my mental struggles, through my heart struggles. And he is making me and helping me grow and create a new mindset that I have been naive to. You know, as we get older, we're so conditioned and programmed to work the same way we've been working all our lives. And sometimes it doesn't work anymore. Sometimes our morals change, our lives change, our expectations change, our happiness, caters to different things. And sometimes you do need a new mindset. And sometimes it's hard to figure things out of how to look at things differently when you've been thinking the same and the same and the same. But is it bringing you anything better? Is it bringing you any changes? No. So we have to sometimes reach out to resources. You listen and you research, you watch TV, you watch shows, you speak and engage in communities that are going through what you're going through to see what other perspectives are. And it can really enhance your lifestyle. It can really make your mental clear and your heart ready to love again. You know what I mean? So he first time ever has made it to the Diasa Show all the way from Chi-Town. He does a weekly podcast that is short episodes with no bullish that empower us humans. It doesn't cater to men or female. It is just being human. It creates the person that you are meant to be. It makes you want to leave your comfort zone, live a purpose, fulfilling life. So we can let's go, right? So yes, 3.6 thousand ratings, 8 million downloads, top 30 podcasters. He's been doing this since 2018, but since COVID happened, his success has went up. And he's so honored by it and so humble about it. And that's what makes him so raw and real. And that's why I had to have him on the Essence Show. So I would like to introduce the first time ever podcast writer, host of the New Mindset, Who This, Case Kenny.
Hello, thank you. You're so kind. You're so nice. I love your energy, your enthusiasm.
I love it. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. I'm better now. I love it. You've brought up the energy in my small apartment here, so I appreciate that.
Oh, I love it. Well, that's kind of what you do for me on a weekly basis. Sometimes you're in your thoughts and you just need that best friend. And sometimes as a female, you don't want to speak to female friends anymore. You want to speak to a man. You want to speak to a gentleman to know a perspective that's different from how we feel. So I thank you. I'm blessed to have come across you. I actually came across you through my best friend, who actually put me on to Devon Franklin as well, who has changed my life. And when we heard you, we're always listening to music in the car, but you're actually the only one that we will listen to together on our way out to lunch, to dinner, and we're talking and we're venting, and we're like, yes, who is this guy? What is he looking like? And then we came across you, and we just been a fan ever since.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm very, very grateful. I love stories like that. That's awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's a hard thing in this business to do what you do. We just spoke behind the scenes, and for some it works, for some it doesn't. Some are still trying. I'm sure you lived that whole process as well, because that's just the journey. But take us back just give us a little brief introduction to who you are to our viewers.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm super grateful to be able to do what I do, which is a privileged thing. So, I mean, I'm a podcaster by title, but that also means I'm a writer because that's how I make a living. But then I also do a lot of interesting things with music. So I can call myself a DJ, producer, enthusiast, whatever you like to call it. But yeah, I mean, my main focus is podcasting with New Mindset Who Dis, but that's been a project that's been in the works for quite some time. I've been writing online in some capacity since basically 2014, but I didn't launch the podcast until 2018. To your point, like it's difficult to be a successful podcaster, let alone someone who does it for a living. And, I launched it in 2018 and it kind of just immediately did well, which is just the craziest thing to me. But then it was really this past year with COVID and just all the things that are happening in the world that I think people have really leaned into wanting, to your introduction, to enhance, change, evolve their mindset. And I'm grateful to be the guy that a lot of people turn to. It's a wild world. I sit in my apartment here in Chicago, sharing my feelings, and it helps other people. So, it's not, you can't have a more rewarding life than that, where I can make a living from it. And I get to learn about myself and I get to talk. I love to talk. I've learned that about myself. I love to hear myself talk. So that's what I do. And I love it.
I love that. And right now, the men are seeming to become more vulnerable with speaking out. They've been so suppressed for so long. We've always been hearing what female struggles are, what females go through. But now it's time for a new storyline. Even as a female, I know what I go through. I'm tired of hearing what we go through. I want to hear what the males are going through so we can better ourselves too. Like you say in your podcast, you have to better yourself to receive better. It's not only you, I. So I want to thank you for being vulnerable and actually sitting there, expressing yourself, and then becoming who you are now. You are definitely a voice. I've definitely shared your voice with other men that I feel like will respect the message. I'm not sending you to someone who's not ready to grow. They don't deserve to hear your voice. They don't deserve to hear your advice. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They won't get it. They won't get it.
They don't get it. They
don't get it.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
They can't appreciate it.
That means a lot. The thing, like, men need to step up in many different aspects of that phrase. But I never really understood this idea that to be a man means you need to be masculine, macho, type A, confident all the time. Like, life, whether you're a man or woman or identify differently, it's all about balance.
Yeah.
It's all about balance. So like for me, it's like I can have a softer, more emotional side. And then right after this, I can go and do a chest and arms workout at the gym and listen to house music and go hang out with my boys and crush beers in a little bit. Like, that's balance. You don't have to choose one. Like, life isn't mutually exclusive like that. And I think men need to realize that. And beyond that, it is a powerfully cathartic thing to talk about your feelings, to share your feelings, or at minimum, like, you don't need to start a podcast to be a evolved man, but you shouldn't ignore what you're feeling. And that's the biggest thing. And then you could take that to life however you'd like, but there's so much power in enhancing your mindset, and not even enhancing, just understanding what it is you're thinking. I find men far away relative to women just don't take the time to ask themselves what they're thinking. They just kind of act, they do every day without kind of considering why. Like, why am I doing this, or why am I feeling this way? And it's just really, really powerful to try to address those things in whatever way you can. It really does make you happier. And at the end of the day, that's what we're supposed to be doing in life, is being happier ourselves so that we can spread that to other people and make an impact. So yeah, I think men need to step up. Men can step up. They don't necessarily need to look to me as a role model or anything like that, but I think there certainly is an ability for men to be more in tune with what they're feeling.
Love it. I love it. All right. So I know your main goal is to drive passion for growth. You have been in relationships before, but recently, from what I hear, you're in the singlehood, which is a great thing. I am too, so I know all about that life. We also talk about self-awareness, lifestyles, mindsets, dating. So let's get into some topics, because we got a lot to talk about. I don't really know where you want to start off, but we're going to start off with the topic of ghosting. Okay. Those people that are in your life for maybe a day or two, couple of months, couple of weeks, maybe a year, and poof, they're gone. When I became single and I came back into this life of singlehood, I had no idea that this was going on. I had no idea what it was. So I'm sitting there time after time, doubting myself, reflecting, rejection, crying, like, what's wrong with me? Oh my God, maybe this is the last relationship I had ruined me. Now I'm attracting this. This is a normal thing that we're all going through. We've all done it. And Case has been vulnerable and honest as well to say he kind of did that a few times in his 20s, messed up, right? You kind of ghosted some people. So let's break down the truth of ghosting. What is it and why are people doing it, and what can we do to stop it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it is like it's definitely become a unhealthy habit that's pretty rampant, especially probably call it the last 5 years, and obviously definitely pushed forward with technology and dating apps and things like that. But I mean, all
Hmm.
ghosting is maybe you go on a date with someone once or twice or even three times, and you're conversing, you're having a conversation, and then all of a sudden one person will just disappear. They won't respond to text. They certainly won't reach out. They'll unfollow you. They'll block you. It's just done. It's the easy way out of saying I'm not interested in continuing a
Hmm.
relationship. And I talk a lot about behaviors like that, right? That are um, narcissistic, that are bad, that are poor form, and that are just the easy way out. And I also talk to a lot of people that are very hurt by ghosting because it is a hurtful thing. Like to be
Hmm.
ghosted by someone, whether you went on one date with them or 5 dates with them, it's still hurtful because you're
Hmm.
left kind of powerless in the sense that you don't have answers. You don't have the ability to express yourself, which is important to some people to say, hey, here's how you made me feel. And more than that, I think a lot of times the tendency is to start to blame yourself. Well, if they ghosted me, clearly there's something wrong with me, something really wrong with me that they didn't even want to take the time to tell me why they're not interested. So it becomes this very negative cycle of behavior where we blame ourselves and we become even more insecure and we doubt ourselves. And it's just really, really unhealthy. So I recently did release an episode on this topic. And
Hmm.
to your point, I've ghosted before. It doesn't make me a bad person, but it's definitely a mistake because a lot of people ghost because, to my point, it's an easy way out. It's easier than having an awkward conversation. No one likes awkward conversations, but you need to have them. And basically, the way that the headline of my episode talking about this is, someone ghosts. It is 100% about them and 0% about you. I think it's really important to realize that. And you can really drill down into why that's the case. But oftentimes, the reason that people ghost is because they're unsure of themselves and then they're embarrassed to speak. Because usually what happens is someone you'll date someone, you go out with them and they're saying all these things. Maybe they're laying it on real thick. They're trying to be real smooth. They're talking about how they're ready to date and this and that. But then when it comes down to reality, they're unsure of themselves. And they're like, well, maybe I don't want to date. Maybe I'm too young. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I want. I'm afraid of commitment. I'm insecure about this, that, whatever. But they're embarrassed to say that. They're embarrassed to say that I changed my mind. I am not ready. I'm insecure about this, whatever. So they ghost because it's the easy way out. And I think it's helpful to remember that because that is 100% on them. And I think when you break it down like that, you realize that. And it can be helpful to people to realize that if you're ghosted, yeah, it's going to sting a little bit, but it says everything you need to know about them and nothing about you. And that, it might not lessen the blow in the present, but it's going to help you realize that the person who did that is just kind of a sad person. Like it's kind of cowardly is a strong word, but it's the easy way out. And nothing good in life comes from choosing the easy way. So let them go live with their insecurity. Let them go live with their uncertainty and their embarrassment. Like they're going to have to live with that. And they know it's wrong. They do. But you deserve someone that wouldn't do that to you. And you deserve someone who, if they didn't want to date you, they would tell you. So I think it's just kind of contextualizing why people do those kinds of things can be helpful because the last thing you should do is blame yourself. Even if you've been ghosted 2 times, 3 times, 5 times in a row, I
Hmm.
still don't think that's because of you. It's you just got a bad batch of people, and that's life for you. Life likes to do that a lot, where it gives
Hmm.
you like really negative experience after negative experience after negative
Hmm.
experience to kind of test you. But ultimately, it's still on them. It's on them and their character and their unsureness and their embarrassment. So that's kind of how I approach that. People tend to find that helpful, and I think it's true. I think about the times that I've ghosted, and again, it was a mistake. It's something I'm not proud of. It's every single time when I did it, it wasn't because I wasn't like feel like vibing with that person or like I thought I was out of that person's league or something like that. It was just because I was unsure of myself, what I was doing, what I wanted, and I was embarrassed to say it. So I was just like, I'm just not going to talk to this person anymore. So
Got
there's
it.
validation in that.
Got it. So if you are ghosted, first of all, it's a very disrespectful thing. It's very
Absolutely.
disrespectful. It's very dismissive, and it's very hurtful, especially if the other party really likes the person, has fallen for the effort. There's a lot of individuals that are pretending to be something they're not, and they want to offer, drag you in, and then not show up. And that is very disappointing. It's like it messes with trust of people, you know? So, and you also become concerned, like whoever's in my world that I've been communicating with, I don't have to love you and care for you so much, but I get concerned, like, oh my God, I haven't spoken to him. Is he okay? And your mind starts to play tricks on you. Did he get an accident? Did he lose my number? You're giving yourself all these like validations on why to reach out. And it's okay to reach out, but maybe once or twice. Do you advise to reach out to these individuals?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be normal to be like, hey, what's
Do you
going
call
on?
them out
Like,
on the bullish?
so I don't know. I think that depends on you. If that's important to you to be like as that, like that's how you find closure, I'm okay with that. If that's what
Okay.
you need to do and you know yourself, but if you're doing it as a means to like strike out and you're gonna carry that frustration with you forward, then don't do it. But if you know yourself and you're like, I just need to get this off my chest and then I'm free of this person, then go for it. But if you're like, if that doesn't help you move past that person and you're gonna continue to think about them, then no, just like they're ghosting you is all you need to know. So ghost them right back. You don't need to say anything to them.
And those individuals are funny too because they'll ghost you and they'll disappear, but out of nowhere they reappear. The spirit comes back, and that's when you have to realize, that time is over. Now we're talking about ghosting, which kind of reminds me of individuals that are F boys or F girls that you've also spoken about on your podcast, and you've compared that to being sad, being a sad person, which has made me really think about it and say, yeah, you are a miserable person. Can we talk about F boys and F girls because girls can be that as well? Hello.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, girls can definitely. I think it's definitely swings in the male favor, unfortunately. But yeah, so I talked a lot about this. I say an F boy really is a sad boy. An F person is a sad person, and that's because what a F boy does is they prey on your most base desire, which is potential with someone else. That's either potential as a couple or potential for the future. Like you're dating a person and you're excited to see where the relationship could go. You're excited to finally be on the same page with someone. You're excited just to be you're energized by the potential, and that potential is validated by the other person. They're saying things that feed into that potential. They're doing things that feed into that potential, but all the while they know that that's not true to them. So that's what an F-boy does. An F-boy creates potential, but they know it's not what they really want. They're doing it to keep you happy and entertained and in their back pocket. And I can't think of a more disrespectful, disingenuous, just mean, cruel thing to do. And the reality, the same thing with the ghoster. It's like an F-boy, they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. I mean, certainly there is a subset of F-boys who maybe are just like so far gone that they think it's a normal behavior. But the average person, the average F-boy, the average ghoster, they know that they're being disingenuous. They know that they're being dishonest. They know that they're saying one thing but feeling another. And they know that they're doing it to serve some end of theirs, whether that they just want to hook up, whether they just don't want to be alone, but they ultimately don't really have any enthusiasm for the potential that they're creating. So that they know what they're doing. And that makes them a sad person. It makes them a sad person. That's a sad thing to do. And a lot of the time it's like, it's frustrating to be ghosted. It's frustrating to be involved with an F-boy who's going to hurt you in some kind of way. But I found, sometimes the antidote to like hurting yourself more by blaming yourself is to feel sorry for that other person. I mean, it is. It's like that person's got to be kind of miserable inside. Like, think about yourself. Like when you've really disappointed yourself, you did something you're not proud of in like a big way. It does not feel good. You let yourself down. You know you're better than that. And that's what an F-boy is. And hopefully that's what they're feeling. They're a sad person because they're not respecting who you are and what you deserve. And I think sometimes doing that kind of helps you prevent yourself from blaming yourself. And that's really what I talk a lot about dating. Like the whole purpose is you date happier and more fulfilled. And the key to doing that is you don't blame yourself when you come across inevitable issues. Like no one's dating story was like fantastic. Like there's always ups and downs. And now, especially in 2021, you've got all these kinds of things. You've got ghosting, you've got F-boys, you've got love bombing, you've got all these different terms, right? So it's even worse. So I think the key to enjoying your dating life is finding a way to not blame yourself when you come across people who are going to hurt you. And I think that the key to that is realizing why people ghost. It's because of them. The key to that is understanding what an F-boy is. They're a sad boy. So that you're not blaming yourself. You're redirecting it at them, and not in an angry way, but in a way that you're like, man, you're a sad person. I'm definitely better off without you. And then you can go on and do your thing. So that's kind of how I approach that.
Why is it happening so much? It's like me and my girl sit there and say, is there a school for this? Why do they say the same exact lines? Like you can notice it from like the minute they open their mouths, the better looking they are, the more they are. What's this trend going on? Or has this been existed and now it's just new? Well, it's old for me now, but is this recent? Like it feels like there's an F-boy school going on that they all went to and didn't even know they went to because they'll even deny it. Like, oh, I'm not that, but you acting just like one.
Yeah. I mean, that's just because they're all unoriginal and they're using the same lines. But
Oh
I don't know. I mean,
God. Is there something that us females need to stop doing besides stop entertaining it? Is that what we just need to do? Stop entertaining it?
I mean, definitely you need to stop entertaining it. But it's tough, right? It's tough. Like sometimes the red flags aren't there, right? You don't spot them because a good, effective, professional F-boy is going to be really good at it. And what they'll do is they'll call other men out for being F-boys so that they're like, oh, they're a woke guy because they're calling out other F-boys. He can't be an F-boy. He's calling out other people, right? So, I mean, humans are dirty. Like they know how to trick other humans. So, I mean, that's why like you can't blame yourself because some people are just really good at lying, really good at deceiving. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. I think I'm unfortunate. I mean, dating apps, like just Instagram, like social media has definitely played into it just because there's so many more options and it's so much easier to meet someone else. Like an F-boy can just swipe, meet 5 women quickly and use whether they're like really attractive or whatever they're using to their advantage. They can use that and roll with it. It's tough. It's tough to date in 2021. Like I get that. I absolutely do. I mean, I feel the same way sometimes. But I think it comes down to trying to be as aware as humanly possible of what a warning sign might be that someone is being disingenuous. And then 2, just being as headstrong as possible, knowing what you deserve, knowing what your boundaries are, knowing what your standards are, and just being super, super stubborn about them, refusing to lower them no matter what. I think a lot of that comes just down to like how self-aware you are, like how well you know yourself. It goes a long way, especially in dating.
We have 5 more minutes to our break. So I want to ask, what is the number one red flag of that behavior that we can be aware of? And are females acting the same way now? Because, you know, we hear a lot men saying females are becoming like males. What's your thought on that before we go to a break?
I think I wouldn't say it's like an epidemic, but I think certainly women do the same thing. That's why it's like these things don't necessarily make you a bad person when you do them because we all go through phases. It's just a mistake.
Right.
It's just a mistake. Like I've done things I'm not proud of in dating, but I wouldn't label myself a bad person. I'd say I made a mistake and I wish I hadn't. But
accountability.
It's accountability. Exactly. It's awareness that you did it. The problem is when you're delusional and you're like, I didn't do that. That was them. Like that's when we have a problem. That's Houston. We have a, but yeah, no, I mean, women definitely do it because they can, and they realize just as same with men that you got dating apps, you got DMs, like there's so many more options, and women realize that, and power to them. Like you should shop around, but if you're going to shop around, that's fine. If you just want to have fun, that's fine. But you just got to be intentional about communicating it. There's someone out there who's fine with that, but you just got to say it. The same with men. And I think that'll solve a lot of your problems. And regarding your other question about red flags, I mean, there's so many. I think you've got to define what truly is a red flag to you. But I mean, I think a lot of like the biggest red flag, I mean, to me, it's just like communication lapses. Like anytime someone's like, it's like, I'm a bad texter. I never agree with that. Like you could be just like not a great texter, but if you're talking to someone that you actually like, you're going to become a good texter to that person specifically. Like you're going to find a way to overcome your bad texting. Like it never made sense to me. So that would be my number one thing. Like if you like someone, you're going to find a way to make it work from a texting perspective. Like what a ridiculous thing.
Yes, that's why I'm laughing here because I actually heard that. I have that in my text archives, and I'm telling myself, don't fall for it because everybody's always on their phone. It takes 2 seconds to say hello, and if you like someone or have interest in them, you will make the time for it. Now, I understand that everybody's texting style is different. Do you want to give like a brief thing? We have like 2 more minutes before PSA comes on. Do you have any type of advice on that?
Yeah,
texting styles, like not to expect so much.
Yeah, my advice is going to be mind blowing. You ready? It's stop texting and start calling. Like I don't text. I mean, I do text just like casually, but if I am actually interested in someone and I want to have a serious conversation, I'm not going to try to get them to know them over text. Yeah, tell me about your childhood. Like I'm going to pick up the phone and call them. And I know that's weird because millennials don't do it. Gen Z don't do it. Like up and coming generations don't do it. It's kind of wild, but it just solves all your problems in immediate. There's no guessing. There's like, you know how easy it is to read into a text message. Oh, they didn't include a smiley face. They're annoyed with me. It's like, just call them, have a quick conversation. It doesn't need to be a sit down interview. It could be just like, hey, how was your day? I was going to text you, but I just figured I'd call you. Like, that's awesome. Like that would be my advice.
I like it. No, it's true. And we've become so programmed that when someone does call, you're kind of like hesitant because you're like, recently somebody had called me and I felt like I wasn't that interested. Let's just say that. But I also felt like it was very intimate, like it was personal. You know, like to speak to someone I just met on the phone. So that's like where I'm at. And I'm a little older and I'm used to old school love, handwritten letters, cards, you know, gestures, phone calls, you know, making love on the phone till like 7 a.m. But like now, but now after being a divorcee and being single and seeing what's out there and inventing myself, it's a little weird for me. It's like too intimate. And maybe it's because I just haven't been like so involved or interested in someone. So it's been like a little bit of a challenge with speaking on the phone nowadays, weirdly.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not appropriate after like date one. Like I'm talking like 2, 3, 4 dates in. Like you got to be feeling. There's got to be mutual enthusiasm for each other. Nothing's more awkward than if like he's really into you, but you're not, and then he calls you. Like it's awkward. I don't.
Or if I'm just meeting you on a dating app, like hi, you know. I want to see if we can get into that too, because the dating apps, people are on it, and they're also F-boys there too, because they're there to like people, but then they don't interact with people once you do the like. But we have to take a quick break. Guys, do not go anywhere. I hope you guys are enjoying this conversation. We have some more topics to come. Stay right here on the D'Essence Show. And if not, you better get in line.
Oh, hey, Audrey Puente here. I'm hanging with my girl D'Essence on the D'Essence Show. So get in line.
Hey, I'm Natalia Fernandez, State Assembly Member for the 80th Assembly District. I'm here on the D'Essence Show. Get in line.
Yo, que lo que, te habla Cacique, también me conocen como Victor Almanza, tu actor favorito de Power Empire 1155. I'm about to drop some ish, you know what I'm saying? So te estoy diciendo que se pongan en línea. ¿Sabe lo que significa? That means get in line. The Essence Show.
Peace and bless King and Queens, the King Amadeus, multi-platinum bad boy hip-hop producer, Trey Songz, music director, tour drummer. I'm here with the Queen, the one and only, The Essence Show. If you're not in line, you better get in line. You heard me? King Amadeus, Platinum Boy Music.
That's right. You better get in line. Just some past guests, just to give you a little idea what The Essence is about. Right now, we are here with the podcast writer, 5-star, Chicago-based, Case Kenny, who I adore. I finally have him on the show. We've been talking about ghosting. We're talking about F-boy equals sad boys. We're talking about disrespect and red flags. But now we're on to the next segment, and we're going to talk about expirationships that a lot of us are involved with, that we can get into toxic issues or situations with. We'll talk about loneliness and missing that ex. We'll talk about Snuggle is real. Let's bring back Case. And we're back.
I'm back.
The new mindset. Who's this? I love the attitude, by the way, with the who's this.
Oh, yeah. Got to throw a little attitude.
So, yeah, we were just having all these conversations. I want to speak about Expirationships, which is your recent release. And I feel that a lot of us are in that. A lot of us are dealing with expired relationships or contact. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I call these expirationships, and these are relationships you're in that you kind of know have an expiration date. You kind of know they're not going anywhere. Like you're in them, it's comfortable, and you kind of know it doesn't have the legs to the relationship that you'd want. And there's many reasons you can get into a expirationship, but ultimately it's because you got into the relationship in the first place for the wrong reason, or the other person got into the relationship for the wrong reason. And I talk a lot about this. And I think this is a very important thing to talk about, and a very universal experience that we all go through, is that we get into relationships for the wrong reasons. And there's many, many wrong reasons. I think like a couple of the big ones are pressure. That's either pressure from our partner or pressure from ourselves. Pressure from our partner might be, I'm ready to take this to the next level. Like, let's commit to each other. I'm ready. You're ready. Then they tell you you're ready, right? And you're kind of like, well, I guess I am. Like, you're so ready. He's so eager. She's so eager. Like, okay, let's do this. And then all of a sudden you're in this relationship that you didn't decide that you were ready for. Like, the only way to be in a relationship, in my mind, a healthy relationship that has legs to it, is that you decide that you're ready and they decide that they're ready, and you meet in the middle and you're both ready. It can't be one person coercing the other person. So that's pressure. There's also pressure we put on ourselves, right? I'm getting older. I can't be the only single person left. Like, I'm falling behind. Everyone else has a partner. I need to find someone ASAP. And so you lower your standard and you hop in a relationship simply to counteract that feeling of being alone. Or you could be feeling lonely. I'm lonely. I'm a lonely person right now. I need to find someone that makes me feel less lonely. So the first nice person you come across, you're like, well, they're nice. They're not an F-boy. So let's do this. But that is not a good enough reason to be in a relationship. I know it's a very tempting reason, but it's not a good enough reason. And oftentimes when you get in a relationship for the wrong reason, it has an expiration date. Because how can you, like, I really disagree with the notion that you can like grow to love someone. I don't think you should ever put yourself in a position to grow to love someone. I think you should have a spark where you're like, I really, really am connected with this person. Like, let's do it. One of the ones that I talk a lot about is this idea of getting into a relationship, a committed relationship with someone because you're pressured to do it. And there's different kinds of pressure. There's pressure from your partner. That could be, them saying, I'm ready. Like, let's commit. Let's do this. Like, we're ready. They're basically coercing you into doing it, not in like a aggressive way. But any relationship that's going to last has to be one where you decide that you're ready and they decide that they're ready, and you meet in the middle. It can't be one person more ready than the other coercing the other person to be ready. You have to wait until you're both at the same level, and then you move forward together. So that's a big reason. Number one is that pressure from your partner. There's also pressure from society and family. Like, you're the last single friend. You're getting older. Like, why don't you have someone? Why aren't you married? Why don't you have kids? Things like that. That adds up after a while. It starts to really lean on you and starts to make you feel insecure. So you're like, all right, the next nice person I meet, I'm just gonna make it work. But that, of course, isn't a good enough reason to be in a relationship with someone. And then there's also the pressure you put on yourself, that you're like, I'm lonely. I don't want to be alone anymore. And the next nice person you come across, you kind of lower your standards and you're like, well, they're nice. They like me. Let's just do it. But I think we all deserve better than that. We all deserve better than lowering our standard because of pressure. And I get that the pressure is tough. Like, it's not easy to stay strong in those moments, especially as you're getting older, especially as you're kind of beat up by bad relationships. You're like, you start to see a nice person as like the ultimate. But that should be the base expectation, a nice person, someone who's interested in you. Like, everyone deserves that. So it's got to be more than that. So that's, basically this idea of expirationships. It's a relationship you get into for the wrong reasons. And it's unlikely going to last because it's one-sided, or it's a relationship where you really lowered the bar to get into. Another big reason that I talk a lot about that people get into expirationships is this idea that the other person is like really, really enthusiastic about you, and they love bomb you. They throw attention at you. They really, really love you. But you're like, I don't know if I feel the same way. But because we're kind, empathetic people, we don't want to break their heart. We don't want to reject them. We start to think that we can grow to love them. But that is not a good enough reason to get into a relationship with someone, a committed relationship, at least. So that's another big reason. So I think we owe it to ourselves to consider asking the question of, why am I considering moving forward with this person? Why? Is it their why, or is it my why? Is it a mutual why, or is it one-sided? And I think it's just a powerful, quick question that we could ask. And I think if we do it more frequently, we'll find ourselves saying no, even though it's kind of a tough thing to do. And it'll serve both of us for the better, right? You're letting that person down so they're not wasting your time. And you're setting yourself free to find someone that you actually are certain about, and you're in that relationship for the right why. So that's kind of my take on expirationships.
Wow. And it's so interesting that you say that because a lot of us are doing that. And there are times when individuals are like, oh, he's so nice and he would treat you amazing. And it's like, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't do nothing for me. Now, if you were a certain type of person, you would take advantage of that. And then you're kind of using that person to just boost your ego and how you feeling. Yeah, we need to become a little more selfish and self-care for what we
Yes.
need.
Yes.
And that brings toxic, even though it may not be an abrasive relationship or you're dealing with abuse or whatever, but just the fact that you guys are not on the same level or pattern or routine, it could bring toxic environment. Like you said, one person's feeling one way, the other person's not. And that's why we get the cheating going on. That's why we get the divorce and the end of the relationships, that no one is feeling their needs met. Which brings me into the topic of loneliness and missing an ex or missing relationships that lead you to go into the expiration dates, right? Can you
Yep.
share some light on that?
Yeah, for sure.
Loneliness and missing the ex?
Yeah, it's a big one. I think it's a two-parter. So
Woo!
loneliness, anyone can feel lonely, particularly this past year. I think loneliness is an epidemic. Like everyone feels lonely, and it's a very universal thing. So I think the first thing is realizing that everyone feels lonely. Like if you feel lonely, it most certainly is not just you. And that's not going to that's not going to make you feel less lonely, certainly. But there's a certain sense of peace in knowing that you're not alone in something that you're going through. So that's point one.
Yeah.
Point two about like being single, a lot of times people associate being single with being lonely, but there's a big difference between being alone and being lonely. And I'm not here to like lecture someone on what those differences are, but we need to understand sometimes that just because you're alone, it doesn't mean that you should associate that with feeling lonely. If you feel lonely, that's okay. I'm not going to try to correct you, but sometimes we borrow ideas and we think that I am an alone person. I don't have a partner. Therefore, I should feel lonely. Therefore, I feel lonely. Like we don't really question ourselves. So I think it's important to realize that just because you're single and technically you're alone, it doesn't mean you're lonely. And a lot of the times I consider being alone and I consider being single. And people a lot of the times are like, oh man, I just can't wait to not be single anymore. Like I've got to get through this. And I try to do this exercise where I fast forward in my life, call it 10 years from now, 20 years from now, I'm in my 50s, 60s, whatever. And I look back, I think it would be very difficult to look back and regret being single. I think there's lots of things you might look back and regret. You'd regret being in an expirationship, wasting time on it. You might regret being in a relationship that was toxic. You might regret giving the time of day to someone who did not deserve you. Those are things you'll regret. But I think it's very difficult to regret your single years. And you ask anyone, like I've asked my grandparents, I've asked my parents, I've asked older generations, and no one ever says that they regret being single. And it's a powerful thing because in the immediate, when you're feeling alone and lonely, you might be like, this is the worst. But think about yourself 10 years from now where you're happy with a partner. You're not going to look back and regret this. So that's just a little bit of mental exercise that I do. And then in regards to missing an ex, right? So that all compounds. Maybe you're single, you're feeling lonely. Oh, and you're out of a relationship and you're missing that ex. Very, very common, right? I think in regards to missing an ex, I did an episode where I said the snuggle is real. Okay, the struggle is real.
Oh boy, did that resonate. Oh boy, that resonate. Because it just makes you clear. And also moving on and letting go, we got to talk about that too. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like doing a little play on words. So I like that episode. But I think the biggest thing about moving on from an ex, like you got to realize, like if you're missing an ex, you got to ask yourself. Again, I talk a lot about questions to ask yourself. It's do you miss the person or do you miss the things? Do you miss the person or do you miss the habits? Right. And I think if you're an aware, vulnerable person, you're going to be like, man, you know what? It really wasn't. I mean, it wasn't so much the person. It was the accompaniment. It was the habit. It was having the person to be there. It was not being alone. It was all these different things. And you start to break it down and you're like, yes, like I certainly have fond feelings for that person. But the reason that I feel lonely is because I actually miss the thing, the habit, the adventures we went on, the experiences we had together. But at a certain point in your journey to find closure, you start to separate the two. and you become a little less emotional and polarizing towards the person, and it's more the things. And when you get to that point, it's like, okay, well, I can deal with this, because you can find and create new, even more rewarding things and experiences with someone else. And that means you can move forward. So I think it's helpful to realize if you're like, I miss my ex, to ask yourself, do I miss the person, or do I miss the things, the shared experiences we had together? Because you can find even more rewarding, even more amazing shared experiences with someone else, someone that's going to be permanent in your life. And that should be your North Star, as opposed to missing a person. I think it's okay to miss someone, of course. I think you're going to immediately following a relationship, but I think after a while, you're going to realize that the person and the experiences are kind of drifting apart, and you're more focused on missing the experiences. And when you get to that point, that's your sign that, okay, I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to go find more rewarding experiences with someone else. And it's not ignoring that. That's why I say, like, the struggle is real. Like, you miss snuggling with that person, and that's fine. But you can find someone to snuggle again with in the future, and that's someone who truly deserves you, and it's going to be long lasting. And I think just trying to be aware of that missing an ex oftentimes means you're missing the things. And those are things you can go out and get and deserve and grow with someone else in the future. So I think sometimes it's helpful, because we put ourselves in this box of, I miss this person, I miss this person, I miss this person. And that's tough, because a person is it's a real object. It's not an experience. And you can't go out and find that same person, nor should you want to, but you can go out and create shared experiences, and that should be what should be guiding you.
And there's a very thin line between that and having the shadow or the spirit take up space in your heart and mind, right? Do you believe there's like a thin line? So how do we break through that line? I mean, I think we've all been there.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think
it takes up space. It's rent free.
Yeah, you can't let them live rent free. You got to charge them for that. I mean, I think, like, I talk a lot about closure. Closure is this idea of, you can move on, like that person no longer has hold over you. You don't carry them around as a weight. And I think the biggest thing to realize about closure is it's something that you create on your own. 100%. I say all the time that closure isn't a team sport. It's not something that you and your ex create together. I know there's some exceptions to that, but for the most part, like, I think we need to decouple this idea of, one more conversation with them, one more conversation to make sure we're on the same page, one more honest conversation. I think that's definitely helpful down the road. But when you're hot off a relationship, hot off a breakup, and you're needing to find that closure, don't try to find closure. It's create your own closure. And I think oftentimes the best way to do that, honestly, is to throw out that word closure to begin with, because closure is so binary. It's yes or no, right?
Yeah.
I like to replace it with this idea of just peaceful acceptance. And this is really tough sometimes, because the reality of life is you could be an amazing person and you deserve an apology. You deserve this answer. The reality of life is sometimes you just don't get it. You won't understand why a relationship ended. You won't get that final conversation. You won't get that apology that you deserve. And I think we need to come to terms with that life is best lived with not giving energy over to people and things that don't deserve it anymore. It's best keeping it for yourself. And that's peaceful acceptance. So instead of trying to find closure, create closure. And even better, instead of trying to create closure, it's just create peaceful acceptance of, like, the stories that might not have an ending, chapters that don't have a final chapter. Like, that mentality is just going to save you so much energy, because to your point, it's like, it is a fine line, and you can draw that line and be like, here's where I am. I deserved these things. I didn't get them, but I'm no longer going to chase them. And in its place, I'm going to have a sense of calm and peace, of acceptance that this happened. I deserve better. I'm focused on the better. I'm moving past that. So that's kind of how I think about that.
And that will bring us into moving on and letting go. And we always hear, move on, let it go, whatever. It's so easier said than done. Do you know that is one of the hardest things I've ever been through in my life? First of all, you don't even know how to move on. You don't even know how to let go. No one can even tell you how to do these things, because only you know what you need in your heart. And it takes time, and it takes a lot of freaking tears, a lot of alone time. You're going to be lonely. You're going to be fearful. You're going to be second guessing, reminiscing, thinking about what you could have done wrong or better, to change the situation. Yep. You are going to go back in time and relive things, and you have to forgive yourself. And I think that is the hardest thing to do for a person, is to forgive themselves, because we always want the other person's forgiveness. And they can always say, yeah, I forgive you, but it's in your heart, because those memories are instilled in your mind. When I heard that episode, moving versus letting go, or moving on, letting go, it hit my soul, because I kept hearing, move on, but you're not letting go. And I'm saying, yes, I am. And you cleared it up for me by saying you can do both at the same damn time. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, it's so well said. I mean, I think the reality is, and I struggle with this, like in my 20s, I was like in several serious relationships in my 20s, and like in my 30s now I'm single. So I kind of like flip-flopped it. But like thinking about those relationships, it's like the healing process, or like getting over a breakup, getting over a relationship, it's so difficult. But the thing is, sometimes we set an expectation for ourselves where it's like, you don't move on until you're fully healed. And it's like, what does that mean? Like, it's tough. It's like, you might carry some of this around with you forever, not in a hard way, but the memory of it. And it's like, we expect ourselves to be able to just snap our fingers and move on. And that's just not fair to ourselves. Like, the healing process is one where you get to a point where you're ready to put yourself out there and be vulnerable again. And then you heal through that. Like, you shouldn't use someone else to get over an ex. Like, I don't think that's ever right. But there's something to be said about not holding yourself back forever, because you're expecting yourself to be ready to go. I'm ready to go. It's always going to be a moving target. And I just think giving yourself, taking the pressure off yourself to heal, to have closure. It's like, yes, work your hardest to find that, but also don't demand so much of yourself that you're holding yourself back from going out and living life and trying to create that closure in other ways. And I think that's just really important. Like, we can really put ourselves in a corner by thinking that closure is, this and that, where the reality is, it's like, it's whatever it should be to you. So like, borrowing what closure might be for someone else is totally different from your own. It's establish what that looks like for you, and then don't hold yourself back from going out and creating it. And that might mean going out and starting to date. But as you go, just be really upfront about it, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I think it is, to your point, it's very, very difficult, but we shouldn't put so much pressure on ourselves to demand, such a high degree of it. It's like, you're human. It's going to be difficult, and just accept that, and you're going to find a lot of peace in that.
Absolutely. And you will think about these people from time to time. You will want to reach out from time to time if you care and love the person still, if there's a friendship there. There are little nuggets that individuals hold on to, like a happy birthday text or happy holidays, but there has to be a time that you are letting go, and that might have to stop. And that is a hard thing too, because that's when you realize, I have to really let go and not entertain this anymore. And it hurts. Any tips on dating? Okay, so we are able to move on and let go at the same time. It doesn't mean that we're stuck in the past, right?
Yep.
And we're allowed to feel our emotions, but move on. Let's not entertain, let's not reach out, let's not do that, right? And also, don't be upset if you're feeling a certain way, because sometimes we sit here and say, I'm going through all this, and this person's probably living their life, because everybody's path is different. Everybody's perspective is different. Everybody handles things differently. So worry about yourself. Get yourself in line. Are there any tips for dating now that you are in the dating scene that you can share?
Yeah, of course. That was really well said. Preach it. I think, I mean, the biggest thing, the biggest thing is that there's no right way to date. And I think it's so important to remember that. Like, it's I could go in so many different directions with this, but I think, ultimately it comes back to down to, like, there's no right way to live your life, but the wrong way is to think that there's a right way. And a lot of times we think that in dating, like, dating looks like this, a first date looks like this, my type looks like this. And I think that sets ourselves up to be frustrated. It's like, throw your type out the window, throw your expectation for what a first date looks like, throw your expectation for how to meet someone. Like, there is no stigma to meeting someone on a dating app if you do it the right way. I don't know why people still like, I met him on a dating app. Who cares? Like, you don't have to meet someone at a farmer's market to have it be romantic. Like, you can meet on a dating app. And I think like we just need to remove the expectation for the how. I talk a lot about this. Have an expectation for a who. I deserve someone who respects me this way, who does this, that, and the other. But you should remove your expectation for the how you're going to meet that person, how that relationship is going to progress. What's right for someone else might not be right for you. And I think we need to remove that expectation. We need to have strong boundaries, strong standards, but we shouldn't allow what worked for our parents to drive us to date, what worked for someone you saw on Instagram drive us to make decisions. It's like, figure out what works for you and go for it. If that means sliding in someone's DM and being respectful, but complimenting them and asking them out, that's amazing. If it means going up to someone at a gym and asking them out, that's amazing. Like, just do, as long as it's respectful and well-intentioned, like there's no rules. And we need to recognize that. And it's so much more freeing than sitting around and overthinking, well, he said this, or, ooh, I don't know. It seems he slid in my DM. It's like, whatever works for you. There's literally no rules. As long as it's rooted in respect and compassion and intention from both people, have at it. And it's so much more freeing when you think of it that way, as opposed to, oh, here's the rule book, here's the checklist, this isn't on it, so it's not right for me. It's like, forget that, do your own thing. And I think you'll be much happier as you go about it.
Yeah, we need to, like I said, we need to rewrite the story and change the dialogue, because things are different. We're different, and we're all looking for something. I think I'm going to end it here, because we talked about a lot. It was very informative, very relatable. I would like you to give out your information. And also, you're an author of 3 books, including Unbothered and Singleness is Your Power, or Being Single is Your Power, which I plan to get. It's already in my shopping cart. So give us some information where the viewers can find you and listen to you.
Yeah, so it's case.kenny on Instagram. All my links are there. The podcast is New Mindset Who Dis. Also newmindsetwhodis.com. I have different journals there as well. But that's it. Yeah, everything Instagram. You can really get to know me on Instagram. It's case.kenny.
Absolutely. I love our conversation. I pray that you had a good time and you will be happy with the show, that you will come back and share some more light on more topics, because I look forward to listening to, what's today? Yeah, Thursday's episode. Thursday. And back into Monday. But yes, it was a pleasure having you. Such an honor. And I wish you the best of blessings. And thank you for being my friend from a distance, but thank you for being my friend. Or even a therapeutic type of influence, you know what I mean? Because we all need to hear. Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. We'll have you back on the DS show, all right?
Thank you. I appreciate you. Very grateful. Thank you so much.
Mwah. Absolutely. Have a great day, and we'll speak soon. To Case Kenny on the DS show. I want to thank all my viewers for tuning in today. Please love up on yourself. Please find your happiness. You are in charge of your happiness. You are in charge of how people treat you. You're in charge of your boundaries and your standards. Take your time. If you're getting a divorce, if you're getting out of a relationship, take your time. Learn about yourself. I know it's a scary thing. I know a lot of us don't even want to look in, but we have to. Do you want to bring this baggage into somewhere else? Do you want a toxic relationship that's not loving? You work on yourself. There's no reasoning of why God or whatever you believe in won't send you what you deserve, okay? And if not, you better get in line. See you next week. Love you all. Have a good night. The DS Show.
Hey friend, hope you're doing well. I wanted to take a quick minute to do a video on a question I've been getting a lot of in my texts, which is great. I love texting with you. Definitely shoot me a note. But I've been getting a lot of questions on how to handle all this uncertainty that we're facing right now, all this anxiety, this frustration. And I have a pretty level mindset towards all this. I did a podcast on the good, on the great that I think can come from this. But I want to answer this question directly and also speak passionately about how I think you can handle any negative circumstance in life, any uncertainty, any frustration, any setback, rejection, you name it. I think it comes down to reframing the issue at hand. And it's a really simple idea. Again, I'm a simple dude, but it's worth talking about. And shout out Missy Elliott for this one. I think you could take anything in life, put it down, flip it, reverse it, and use it. You can use it. You can use life's madness to serve you. You can use the frustration, the anxiety, the rejection that you're getting served up in life, and you can use it. And basically, in any situation, let's call it a bad situation. It could be like what's happening right now. We're all frustrated, we're all anxious. Or it could be, something simple like a bad breakup or a career flop or a creative failure or some kind of self-confidence issue, right? Any frustration. Maybe you're just frustrated with a lack of progress in life, or you feel like you're heading nowhere in life, whatever, right? A negative situation. You basically have two options in life in regards to your mindset. Option one, do you let that situation use you? Or option two, do you use that situation? Do you let that uncertainty use you? Do you let that anxiety use you? Do you let that pain, that self-consciousness, that rejection, that failure use you? Or do you use it? Do you pull a Missy Elliott, you put that thing down, you flip it, you reverse it, and you come out swinging better, more motivated, more effective than ever? Or do you let that situation turn you into a frustrated, hurt, rejected, closed off person? Or do you use it? Do you look it in the eye, get real with it, and say, okay, yeah, I am frustrated, I am anxious, that was a failure, I did mess up, but I am determined to use it, to use that uncertainty, to use that anxiety, to use that failure, that rejection, and to use it to come out swinging as fuel? Or do you let it use you and turn you into a scared, beaten, closed off person? When you put it like that, I think the answer is obvious, and I don't know about you, but I use it. I am determined, I am stubborn to not let it use me. And I think that just like that simple reframing can be really powerful towards how you deal with what's happening to you in life. And right now, especially, I think with all this uncertainty I talk about on the podcast, I am determined, I am stubborn to use it, to be my most creative self for 30 days, 3 months, 6 months, whatever. I am determined to use it, to be more grateful, more compassionate than ever before. I am stubborn to not let it use me. And I think you can apply the same reframing towards anything in life. You can use a breakup to become the most centered, confident, I know what I want person in the world. You can use a career failure to become the most prepared, well-versed, outspoken, in-demand person in your field. You can use an embarrassing social moment to truly grow into a healthy, confident, in your weird self kind of person. I think you could take any negative circumstance, put it down, flip it, and reverse it. You can use life's madness to serve you. You can use it to help you step into who you're capable of becoming. You can use it as context for transformation, for growth, for whatever you're trying to grow and level up into. And I think now is a great time, is the perfect time to take something, put it down, flip it, and reverse it. Now is the time. Right? If you don't use it, you lose it, right? I think now is the time. Now is the moment to take something and use it, to make a promise to yourself that you're going to come out the other side of this changed in some way, big or small, just to make the most of this time. I mean, let's be honest, you have time. You're not going anywhere. So to make the most of this time, to take something that happened to you, something that is frustrating you, something that is holding on to you, put it down, flip it, and reverse it, and to not let it use you anymore. To use it to step into who you're capable of becoming. And that's why I'm so passionate about this idea. I call it the Missy Elliott, put it down, flip it, and reverse it idea. But I think it's a great way to reframe any negative circumstance and help you push yourself into becoming the person you're capable of becoming. So I hope that's helpful, especially now with all the context and the frustration we're all facing. But let me know, you can text me, love to chat a little bit more about it with you.